This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. Good afternoon. Ira, revenge was sweet.
It was, you know what? You wait all season for moments. And a season like this that has not had many moments, Big O, you take it and you move on. And at least I get to join you this week in our Acura Pembroke Pines report on a winning streak.
Yeah.
So you live in the moment, you enjoy the moment. But that was so much. You go back in the days like the Jeremy Lin game and other games. When Spoelstra gets his team uniquely focused, they still can do incredible things no matter the roster. And I think we saw some of that on Tuesday night against Jimmy Butler. Fortunately, Jimmy Butler and not Steph Curry also, or else all those missed threes would have been made threes. And you and I probably will be talking about a different outcome.
Yeah, I mean, the Rex Chapman game, when I was a season ticket holder, I remember carrying my wife, who was my girlfriend then, on my shoulders, coming down the stairs, and we beat Utah. You remember that in the expansion year when we beat Utah? We kind of basically that year I believe we beat Detroit and Utah. I want to say, but the Utah one was at home. I remember specifically because I was a season ticket holder. And we were sitting the second level, and I remember I carried my wife on my shoulders, and we were coming down the stairs and going crazy. Something that I would probably die if I tried to do that now, which is hilarious. But yeah, those are those moments, and to me, that's what that felt like. That night that you needed to kind of wash yourself of all this crap.
Good point.
And it was important for you to defend your franchise. You know what I mean? And I was proud of the fans that booed, and I was proud of the way the Heat carried themselves because they showed a spine that night. And
Sure.
I thought that was important. I really did.
Yeah, and again, Steph Curry being out made all the difference, but good for the Heat, good for the moment. Again, there's all kinds of lottery odds and benefiting by losing, but they realized what that day meant. Again, they had to do the video. The Heat do videos for players who either won championships with the team or were named all-stars with the team. So it would have looked very petty to have a Goran Dragic video and not have a Jimmy Butler video. I do think the Heat waited, though, so in case Jimmy tossed another grenade and said one more thing, they had the optionality until the actual game to decide what direction to go in, or at least until the day before when they made the formal announcement. So there was a lot of pins and needles. And look, you saw the meaningful differences between two players. Andrew Wiggins was hugged and embraced by every member of the Warrior staff because he is a good human being. Jimmy Butler said hello to his two friends who live at his house, who were sitting in the stands, who were wearing Joy sweatshirts just to mock the Heat, and then went right into the living room. That's the difference. Went locker room, rather, probably living room at home after, and that's the difference. Jimmy Butler is about Jimmy Butler Incorporated.
Right.
And that's why it was difficult from the get-go to make something work with Jimmy Butler. Andrew Wiggins is about team. Bam Adebayo about team. Tyler Hero about team. And believe me, as this story plays out further down the road, you're going to hear all kinds of things about how Jimmy Butler made it difficult. But you and I have spoken now for weeks on our Acura Pembroke Pines report. Jimmy Butler tossed a grenade in this locker room and couldn't have given a rat's ass what the carnage was on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was really happy that they stuck it to him and the block and everything else that went along with it. And Khalil Ware came up with one of the greatest Heat plays in Heat history, by the way. It's a top 10 play to that drive. I mean,
totally accidental, but I totally get where you're coming from. So have yourself a moment, kid. There were a bunch of guys who had moments. There was a bunch of maturity I wrote about today with Tyler Hero. And if ever we needed that moment when there was the true passing of the torch, this was the game. Yes. Jimmy exits stage right. Bam Adebayo step up for his team in his team's probably, I think you'd say, biggest game of the year.
Yes.
Steps up and takes over. So I think we saw the passing of the torch on Tuesday night. The Heat move on to whatever they might become. And the Warriors move on to whatever they might become. But there's still a reality that Jimmy Butler for the third straight year could find himself in the play-in. And that would be a hoot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I got to tell you something. What I loved about that game was because since, this is the whole thing about it, right? Okay, I'm glad that Steph didn't play, but I'm also glad that Jimmy was there because, okay, apparently, Miami has no stars. So the Warriors were down to one star, right? Because that
Right.
star. So, well, the star should carry over the team with no stars. Well,
Not who he is.
exactly, and that's my point. And
you've been talking for years on our Acura Pembroke Pines report how Jimmy is a number 2, is a beta, is a Robin, to a Batman and needed someone else. And here's what's interesting to this whole trade. Jimmy Butler for months was talking through back channel. He didn't want to go somewhere and be number 2. He didn't want to win his first NBA championship on the coattails of someone. Well, what Tuesday night showed us, and the rest of the season will show us, is this is, and always will be Steph Curry's team.
Of course.
And if Jimmy Butler wins a championship, it won't be Jimmy Butler as series MVP. I highly doubt it. It'll be Steph Curry. He is the Warriors. Jimmy Butler decided, you know what? I'll be a number 2 because the number 2 still gets a 2-year, $112 million extension, washes his hands, takes the money, and that's it.
That's right. That's right. And listen, Jimmy Butler-led Warriors have gotten their asses handed to them the last 2 nights with Atlanta and then Miami. So, Steph, hurry back because you're going to start falling in the standings again after climbing out of it because, again, he's not the number 1.
Absolutely.
Now, on the flip side, on the Heat side now, and I got to be a little bit more now brutal about this, okay? If you want the Golden State game to matter a little bit more, don't freaking lose this game tonight.
No,
okay?
When you look at the rest of the Heat schedule,
exactly,
there are 3 games that are going to be killer games. There is a game in Boston to end this trip, the next night against Memphis, 2 nights later against Milwaukee. But when you look at the rest of the schedule, you have Atlanta, you have 2 against Philadelphia, you have 2 against Washington. You're going to have Chicago. You're going to have New Orleans. You're going to have ample chances to win. Now, the sad thing is it won't really impact them being in the 9-10 first play-in game. But you know what? Create some hope. And I'm going to write this for my Ask Ira tomorrow.
Create momentum. Create momentum.
Yes, Chicago is. Like Chicago is at the moment, creating hope also for the future. Because you know what, Big O? We haven't seen really the chance for Wiggins and Bam and Hero to all get together and to play together. I need to see that these next 2 weeks. That's what would make these next 2 weeks meaningful. I want to have a hard decision. I want to go in the offseason and go, should I trade Wiggins or should I build around him? Should I extend Tyler? I know how you feel on that. Or should we build around him? But give me 2 weeks and give Orlando Alzugaray 2 weeks to say, that was an interesting run. I wonder what. I'd like to see that.
You know what I'd like how to end the season? I'd like for you. I know you're going to be in the play-in. I want you to end the season strong here, win most of your games, play well like you have the last 2 games, like you've looked like a good team the last 2 games. Play well, get out of the play-in. Yeah, you got to play Cleveland, but be a pain in the ass to Cleveland in a series. Take them to 5 or 6 games.
Come back with 3 at home. It's interesting. Today's the day the Heat put postseason ticket alerts out. Well, if they're in the 9-10 game, there's a chance they won't have a play-in game. And if the only playoff game then would be in the first round, it would be against Cleveland, would be against the target of Donovan Mitchell coming in, Max Strus coming in. You could still have some fun. And after all this team went through with Jimmy Butler, even if it's a losing record, to come back in the playoffs and do White Hot one more time, hell yeah, I think it would be meaningful. I agree.
I actually would show you that these guys overcame all this bullshit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that to me, that's kind of what you did right now against Jimmy. And again, the game before against Charlotte.
Sure.
You kind of put together, but I don't know if you've done this all season to play that well in back-to-back without Jimmy like that. So now let's get on a little roll here and let's finish it strong and then prove that you don't belong in the play-in. Prove that you're better than them. Get out of there and then see what you can do against Cleveland. Nobody expects you to beat them, but if at least you can go out there and be a pain in the ass and steal a game or 2, then it becomes a respectable end to the season, considering you have no stars. You
And
know,
considering your leading man tossed a grenade into your locker room and
totally,
couldn't have given a rat's butt and
totally,
impacted 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 games, because in the end, that's who he was.
totally. I am with that. And you know, and hey, listen, for LeBron James, he didn't become that guy until Game 6 against Boston here in Miami.
Right.
Before that, he wasn't that guy.
I
You
agree.
know what I'm saying? So maybe this is what leads Bam to be that guy, because he played like a pissed off dude the other
Yes.
night.
Yes. Like we say in Yiddish, like a mensch, like a real man, like someone who
Yeah,
had something to go in there and to prove something. And that's who he can be. And again, he's never going to be your number one because he doesn't have that offensive mindset.
right.
It's just who he is and you accept it. But if Wiggins becomes this 20-plus point a game scorer, and all of a sudden he and Tyler are giving you 50 points as a head start, your offense won't go to crap and you could wind up in a better spot. The thing about Wiggins is he's a two-way player. That means something. His defense was very good against the Warriors. That's what Tyler isn't. It's going to be interesting, Big O. The Heat's ultimate plan. It's like this poo-poo platter of future. They might choose Wiggins and Adebayo and make Tyler the odd man out in a trade. That's what's going to be interesting also. So again, are the Heat going to have a losing record? Yes. Are they going to be in the play-in? Yes. But can these last 2 weeks of the season have meaning? I fully believe that also can be a yes.
Well, I mean, it's about finding out what you're all about,
Yes.
and you really didn't have, because of the whole Jimmy mess. You never really had that like clear path of no distractions. Now we can just
Their
focus on
January and their February were crossed off the schedule. January and February never existed for the Miami Heat in the 2024-25 season because of one selfish, self-important, self-indulgent, self-serving, self-centered player.
Right.
That's why. So literally, the Heat had a couple of interesting months at the start, a couple of interesting months at the end, and this big grenade that went off in the locker room in the middle. That's how I'd sum up this season.
Yeah, and to me, that's why this ending is so important now,
Yes.
and that's why. Now, here's the key. I really believe this. We need to convince Bam Adebayo that Butler plays for every team that's left on the schedule.
No, we need to convince Bam Adebayo that you had your Jimmy Butler moment, and now you can play every game remaining on the schedule, that you are the unquestioned alpha.
Like that.
Yes.
Play pissed.
Yes. Show that. You know what, Big O? I'll compromise with you. Show that video to him before every game. That I agree with.
Yes. Do something to piss him off. I don't know what it is.
Good point.
Okay. Tell him that the player tonight in Atlanta, somebody hit on Asia Wilson. They're going on her DMs.
I will not do that. But I will tell him that Trae Young is Jimmy Butler's best friend, if that helps you. I'll try to do that.
There you go. See, there you go.
I'll meet you halfway, Big O.
That whatever it takes, but do whatever it takes to piss off Bam Adebayo. That's I like a pissed off Bam. See, that's what I loved about Alonzo Mourning. He was
he was pissed off every day of his life until he got older. Sure.
I mean, that was beautiful about Zoe. He had that scowl the entire freaking time. It was freaking awesome. All right, what do you got going in the Sentinel so folks can check you out?
No, I wrote a story about Tyler Hero today, how he's really showing his maturity. 2 moments happened in the last week. They beat Charlotte on Sunday. Tyler still took a bunch of 2-point shots. Eric Spoelstra tried to explain it. They're playing him differently. They're doing all that. And Tyler came in after and said, no, I've gotten away from my preferred shot profile. I should not. I've got to get back to being at the rim and on three-pointers. And he took ownership, even when his coach was going to cover for him. Last game, he was getting blitzed by really good defenders. Gary Payton II, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and he didn't force the action. He made the right play like leading men do. So he still might be baby goat. He still might be boy wonder, but he's maturing in front of our very eyes.
Well, so and he didn't flinch when Riley said he was fragile.
And show up. And tonight he will hit. Well, last game he had 70 games for the first time in his career. So he has done what Jimmy Butler didn't. He has shown up on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a great point. He has shown a ton of maturity throughout all of this. Instead of taking the easy way out with excuses or whatever, he has, which by the way, I got to defend him a little bit here. if they're all over your ass on the 3-point line and you're crafty enough to go inside and get an easy basket because you know how to lay a floater or something off the glass or whatever, then, God bless you, dude.
Right.
That get production
Just
one
can't
way.
be too much of that because
I
twos
get it.
aren't worth as much as threes.
It can't be too much of that because this team can't afford it, unfortunately. Yes. You know what I'm saying? But
and here's the other thing, and I wrote about this in my Ask Ira, and I think this is a worth talking point also real quick before I get out of here. Look who the Heat haven't played last game and last few games. Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Duncan Robinson. God bless them all for the moments they had, but I love at the moments of truth. Eric Spoelstra is saying, either you make us better or you can sit there and being in the cheering section. I like that about this team. Nothing gifted. Either you're productive or you have to wait your turn. We haven't seen Terry in a week. We haven't seen Jaime for any appreciable minutes, none last game, till garbage time. And now even with Duncan out, Alec Burks really stepped up for them in the last game as well.
He wants guys that have less holes in their game at the moment, so he doesn't have to over compensate for some of that stuff. And that makes his job easier as a coach. I get it. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel and support the man and all the other people that work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, thank you, my friend. We will catch up next week.
Catch you on the road next week in our Acura Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir. That is Ira Winderman, and he is off and running. And Acura Pembroke Pines, we will be there tomorrow at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Be out there hanging out with Larry Schlossberg and Pat Nasto. I saw Tony Stampone, by the way, over at the Subaru dealership the other day. It was pretty cool. By the way, you can spring into performance sales event. It is going on right now. Have you seen the all-new ADX? That thing is absolutely beautiful. $359 a month right now. The lease features just arrived. Take advantage. And, of course, they are the number one volume sales dealership when it comes to Acura in the Southeast United States, baby, and in the United States, period. So you're really not going to drive around the United States or the Southeast, right? So you're going to just go to 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines, and the 2025 Integra, $339 a month. You can get 3.9% financing for 60 months. The ZDX, get electrified. The A-Spec, $439 a month, 0% financing for 72 months. That is awesome. The RDX, we've had two in our family. We have one right now because my wife drives it. 2025 model. You can check it out. Special low financing rate. And the MDX Tech, we will take $10,000 off the MSRP for the 2025, baby. So check it out at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Finest dealership in the business. There is no better Acura dealership than Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.